Hello everybody, welcome to Coco's Crochet. I'm Litsa and tonight I'm bringing you episode 3 in our little mini series Crocheting with Blanket Yarn. Now, thanks to a recent yarn haul, I acquired quite a bit of blanket yarn which I added to my already quite extensive collection of it, and I decided that it'd be a nice way to share some projects with you and actually use up the yarn. Now, I do know that quite a few of you have made many projects of your own in the past and you have shared that with me, but I also know that some of you have never experienced working with blanket yarn and might be curious to see what it could be used for. Now, the first thing that always pops to mind, of course, is a blanket, but I'm trying to experiment and, crochet a few other little items just to give us an idea of how we can apply this yarn to different projects. Now, in previous episodes, I've showed you how you can adjust the pattern and the hook size to accommodate for the pattern that you're reading from if it's not for blanket yarn, to use your blanket yarn haul, or if you have some lying around. So that's a good way to think of it. If you have a project that you really want to make and you think, oh, I wonder what it would be like with blanket yarn, go ahead and experiment away. You've got absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain. Now, for tonight's episode, I thought I'd like to make something useful. And of course, what popped into my mind straight away, it was a basket. So let me show you my basket and then I'll tell you how I actually put it together. So here it is here, guys. It turned out very, very lovely and it's quite a nice size. I would call this a medium-sized basket. I'll just pop it here so you can see it while I'm telling you a little bit about it. So the yarn that I used from my haul, and those of you that have seen that video, you would have seen I did manage to purchase about, I think 3 at least, or maybe at the very least 2 bags in millions, and it was a 400-gram ball for, I think it was about $6 at the time, which I think is fabulous value. And in actual fact, for this little basket here, I only used 270 grams. Yes, I did weigh it to make sure that I knew exactly how many grams I used. So if I could possibly make a slightly smaller basket out of the same bag of millions, which is pretty good to know that you can get 2 decent sized baskets for smaller projects with just 1 bag of millions for $6. Now, I have discovered, because I do have other blanket yarn with actual ball bands around it, that the recommended hook size is generally 8 millimeters for blanket yarn, but I did use my 7 millimeter hook. Reason being a basket, I wanted to create a denser, more stronger project so that it could actually sit up on its own as it does, and I also wanted a stronger base as well. Now, I actually used double crochet for the base, and this is all US terminology. Possibly I could have used a like maybe a single crochet, but it does work. And remember, this is a super soft yarn, guys. If you haven't experienced it, is so beautiful that I'm wondering, even if I did use single crochets, if it would have made it any different. But the way that I started off was with I couldn't get the magic ring to work for me. The yarn kept snapping when I was trying to tighten it, so I actually ended up making just a 4-chain ring, and in that I crocheted 12 double crochets, and I increased for 6 rounds. So I made the base this size. I haven't measured it, apologies, but I'm guessing it'd be around 25 centimeters, which might be around 10.5 inches. But you can make it any size you like. You can make it as big or as small as you like the base, depending, how big your basket to be. And then again, with the height, you can make it a shorter basket or a taller basket, depending on, the diameter of your base. So the bottom for mine, as I said, was double crochets. And then what I did for the very first row to build up the height, I crocheted half double crochets in the back loop only, just so you can create a little ridge there, or like a little dip there, so that it can go up. It actually makes it sit up better. So that's what I did then, and I think I've got about 13 rows for the height. So this way, and it's all in half double crochet. I think the colors pulled beautifully together. I absolutely love all these colors, the pinks and the purples. the light blue and the black. I just think it's a beautiful basket. So then when I got to this part where I wanted, like when I was happy with the height, as I said, I think I did about 13 rows. It was time to create the little handles. So the way that I do it is I get 4 stitch markers, and I make sure that, let me just bring this a bit closer for you. So I put a stitch marker here, and then I jump across 10 or 12 stitches. In actual fact, with this one I did 12, but you can do 10 depending, on how much room you want for your hand when, you're carrying it. But that seems to be quite a nice size. And then I put a stitch marker right there. So I leave the 12, so I've got one here, 12 or 10, and then one there. And then I make sure that I've counted all my stitches, and I take away 2 lots of 10 or 12, and whatever the remainder is, I make sure that I leave that many stitches in between here. So let's say, for example, there were 40 stitches after I took away the chains for the handle. I'd leave 20 across here. In actual fact, I think I've got 22 here from memory. And then I do the same thing on the other side. I put a stitch marker, leave the 10 or 12 stitches, and put another stitch marker, and then I proceed to do crochet a row of half double crochets. And then when I get to the chain, I just crochet the half double crochets, 10 or 12 stitches across the chain, continue along until I get to the chain again, and that's how you create your little handles. Now, this was a very quick and a very fun project, let me tell you, and it was very satisfying to be able to just, whip it up so quickly, and I thought I will definitely be making more, excuse me, a larger one definitely, and possibly a smaller one, because, we do have little projects as well, like a lot of you that do amigurumi would have little tiny projects, or if you're creating squares, you can pop them in there. Now, I can show you that it is quite roomy, this one. You can pop in your notions pouch. You can pop in, your pattern if you've got one. And at the very least, 2 balls, 100-gram balls. Possibly, actually you could pull in 3 in here. And as you're crocheting, there you go. You've got it all in there, nice and handy, and as you're crocheting away and you're using your yarn, your little project will fit in there. It is quite sturdy. It's very, very soft, and I absolutely love it. The little handles come in very handy. And as you can see, it is quite a pretty little basket to just, carry around the house with you wherever you may be sitting, if you're choosing to sit in different places. So if you want a YouTube tutorial, because you may not have made a basket before, I have actually only made one before, and I absolutely loved the process. That's why I really wanted to apply it with the blanket yarn. But at the time I used, and I'm sure there's many others, but I used Pamela's YouTube tutorial from Pamela's Adoring Crochet. Pretty sure most of you may have as well. If you haven't, it's an excellent YouTube tutorial. But also I do know that, and I did print off a couple for you guys to see. I went on the Premier website today, and there's 2 in actual fact that I found today. And what you can do is, if you're not going to use this yarn, because as I said, you can adapt any pattern to suit your blanket yarn, well, pretty much any pattern, but be mindful that you will get a different size basket depending on your yarn and your hook, if it's not the same size hook in the pattern. But that's absolutely fine, because that's what we do as crocheters. We adapt things to suit what we're making as well. So I would definitely recommend you guys making a basket with your blanket yarn. The great thing is that you don't have to double up your yarn or anything like that, because if you're making it using like a worsted weight yarn or a DK, which I think is very, very thin, you're going to need 2, 3, maybe 4 strands of yarn. And to make this little basket, I only used the 1 strand. And there it is. That's how thick it is there, in case you're not familiar with it. It is a beautiful size. And with this hook, they were just such good friends. It just was gliding off my hook. It was perfect. Absolutely loved, working with this yarn and this hook. It was just such a real joy. Now, as I said, you can get patterns I'm sure you've got them. I'm sure you've seen them. And if you haven't tried them, please do so. And I am very happy to say that that was our episode number 3. Now, previously, for those of you that may remember, or if you haven't, go and have a look, because we've already made in episode 1 our little penguin here using our blanket yarn. Isn't he adorable? And in episode number 2, let me pop him back there. Oh, oops. There he is, guys. I love him. And then in episode 2, we made this gorgeous little handbag. Let me tell you, this little bag's been out with me quite a few times, and I get to fit in my glasses, my phone, my keys, and it still has room for a few little other things. So it's very, very useful as well. So thank you for joining me this evening, so I can share my, third little project with you. I hope it inspires you to make a basket, because this is definitely something that you would get great use out of. And I would be, very happy to see your baskets if you want to share them with me, and let me know what your experience was as well. So I hope you're all very, very well. As I said, thank you so much for hanging out with me. It's been an absolute joy to bring you this episode. I hope you're all well. Take care, and I shall see you all again in another video. Bye-bye, everybody.